Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 941. We've got a fabulous guest with us. We've got Chris Mezes with us, founder of Bloom Partners. Basically, they consult agencies. They help you with your agency problems. And if you're looking to sell your agency, they can consult with that, I think. Chris has got a ton of knowledge. He's run a few agencies himself, and he's been in this particular sector for a number of years. It should be a fabulous show. So, Chris, would you like to give the tribe a quick 20-30 second intro about yourself, Chris?
Sure. My name is Chris Martinez. I am a local of Los Angeles, California. Spent about 5 years living in Tijuana, Mexico. I'm one of the first people to ever build a team for your marketing agency down in Mexico. Tijuana, Mexico, if you've never been there before, it's known as the most dangerous city in the world. I can tell you it is absolutely the most dangerous city in the world right now. It wasn't when I first got there, but glad to be back stateside here in San Diego.
Yes, that's fabulous. And I got my great co-host, Kurt. Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, Kurt Von Onen with Mañana No Mas. We focus largely on membership and learning type websites, and I also work directly with the folks at WP-Tonic and Lifter LMS.
And like I say, in this great interview, we're going to be discussing with Chris how he got into the agency and agency consultation world. What are some of the biggest challenges agencies are facing, how they can deal with these challenges, and what are some of the opportunities. It should be a fantastic discussion. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this show, I've got a message from one of our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks. 3, 2, 1.
Hi there, e-commerce store owner. At Omnisend, we help more than 100,000 e-commerce customers just like you sell their products. We're an all-in-one email and SMS marketing platform that helps you reach your customers, grow your audience, and increase sales. In fact, our customers have seen incredible results with Omnisend, averaging $72 in revenue for every single dollar spent. And if you ever have a question, our award-winning customer support team is available 24/7 every single day. That's one of the reasons we have more than 6,000 glowing reviews and ratings all across the web. So get started with Omnisend today and start growing your business with better email and SMS marketing.
And coming back, folks, I also want to point out that we've got a fabulous free resource for all you freelancers and agency owners. We've got a curated list of the best WordPress plugins, special offers from our major sponsors. To get all these free goodies, and I know you like your free goodies, all you have to do is go over to wp-tonic.com/partners. No, not partners, deals, sorry. It's wp-tonic.com/deals. I had a bit of a brain fart there. It's early. I haven't had enough coffee so far, tribe, but there we go. So, Chris, like I said in the intro, how did you get, first of all, into the agency world, and then you pivoted to consulting agencies? Maybe you can give us some background info.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like most of us, I went to university for marketing agencies, and then here I am. No, I'm just kidding. I actually didn't like anything to do with the internet. Sounds crazy.
I don't either, Chris. So there we go.
This is back in 2007. I'll start the story there. So in 2007, my dad died of cancer, and then I decided I wanted to start a soccer magazine, or in the UK you would call it football. So I started the soccer magazine. It failed miserably. It was a local print soccer magazine way back in 2007, same year that David Beckham started in MLS. Anyways, that magazine failed miserably. I lost all my money and then some, and had to figure out how to pick up the pieces of my life, so to speak. And fast forward a couple years after the magazine had failed, and I had an idea. I was like, I need to build a website. I didn't have any money. A friend of mine said, hey, go figure out this WordPress thing. And I was like, WordPress, websites? I don't want to do it. Why don't you just help me do it? And he's like, no, figure it out on your own. And I was very, very angry with him at the time, but it ended up being the greatest advice. And over the course of a weekend, and 1,000 calls to HostGator, I built my first WordPress website.
I'm surprised you ever recovered from that experience.
Well, I'm very stubborn. I don't give up. And so I was determined to figure this thing out, right? And so that eventually led to me building more websites and learning about how to drive traffic. And at one point in time, Russell Brunson had a coaching program called .com Secrets, and I hired them to teach me about how to drive traffic, paying them $500 a month. And I was broke, right? That led to my first job working in digital marketing. I worked for a company called Reach Local. If you guys remember them, they did PPC management. And I was a salesperson for them. And that's when I got the idea for my agency in 2012. And I partnered with two guys actually. We had a little team in the Philippines, and we were just cranking out websites, doing content, building the agency. And eventually, 2015, I had moved from LA to San Diego, and I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of staying up till 2:00 in the morning talking with the Philippines team, and them still not doing things right. And I said, I wonder if I can find a team down in Mexico. Like Tijuana is only 20 minutes away. I bet you I could find people down there. And back then, it was very, very difficult to find talent. Like Indeed didn't have a presence there. Most people, they knew web development, but they didn't know WordPress. And this is one of those weird things that at that time, nobody knew WordPress. And so I went down there, I set up a company, I ended up hiring a team. We grew my agency. We ended up having over 200 and something clients on retainer with this little team in Mexico. Now, one of my superpowers has always been operations and systems and processes. And so we were very, very efficient. So I kept telling friends like, hey, why don't you set up a team down in Mexico? Nobody would do it. So I got the idea, let's set up an outsourcing company. We grew that outsourcing company. We had hundreds of employees, millions and millions in revenue. I launched that company. It was called dudeagency.io. We ran that from 2017 up until earlier this year. Now, what happened? 2022-ish, our clients started asking us how to solve other problems other than just outsourcing. Like, how are you guys training these people? They're amazing. Like, I want to learn that and apply it to my agency and all my team members. How are you so efficient with your processes? Because you bang stuff out so fast for us. Can you teach me how to do that? How can I be more profitable? And we ended up getting a client that came to us and said, hey, I don't want to pay you at all for the outsourcing stuff. I just want you to consult me and show me how to run my business more effectively. I'll pay you $5,000 a month. It's like, okay, cool. Let's do this. And then that ended up growing and we started improving the product. And we're like, hey, this outsourcing piece, one, I don't personally think that business model, the way that we were running it, is going to be around that much longer. There's just really no need. But two, the bigger problems that we can solve, right? What if we help these agencies that are doing pretty well, 7 figures in revenue, not very profitable? We help them improve some of these, what we call simple fixes, get them growing, get them scaling, profitability goes up, and we help them to do the exit. And actually now we're actually taking equity with a lot of our clients as well. So we can be a part of that growth and that big exit. And that's when we launched Bloom in July. So that was the fastest way that I could tell that story. I think I came in under a couple minutes or a few minutes.
Oh, you did fabulous. Fabulous. Over to you, Kurt.
Yeah, there was a ton of content in that answer, Chris. It's mind-boggling to some that run agencies that would go, okay, so let me get this straight. He did this, he did this, he did this. And I like the part that you pointed out, like operations being your superpower. That seems to be what I'm seeing with other agencies that I might intertwine with or do projects with, is that they're getting lost in they might be good at talking to people or getting a client, but they seem to be lost in the processing of the tasks or the work that goes in the client work. How do you, well, the question really is, what are some of the biggest challenges that agencies face? And I feel like I'm front loading the question with my own opinion. So I'll just let you answer that question. What are some of the biggest challenges that these agencies are seeing?
100% what you just recognized, right? So when I look at the typical agency owner, especially one that's gotten the business to, let's just say $1 million in revenue, right? They're typically, they were really good at sales, they're really good at marketing, or they're really good at technology. It's usually a combination or one of those three. And so you're growing this business. And like most of us, we kind of start out as a freelancer and somebody gives us a project. We're like, okay, that's cool. We can do that. And then we did a good job and that turns into a referral. And then eventually you're like, okay, well, I need to hire a contractor because there's just so much work, right? Nobody ever taught you how to hire somebody or train somebody or manage product. You kind of just figure it out over time, blood, sweat, and tears type of thing. And then before you know it, because you were so good at getting results for clients and usually decently good at selling, now you have this business, but you can't get to the next level. So like most of the clients that come to us, they're doing decent revenue. Profitability is usually in that 10% range, but man, those agencies are working really hard. The agency owners are working really hard, 60, 70 hours a week. They feel like they can't leave the business. Otherwise it's going to fall apart. Right. And the reality is that it's not rocket science. It's just that you don't know how to run the business effectively. You're so accustomed to running it. So you're essentially the centerpiece of this business, which you had to do. Right? You had to do that for a number of years. Now we have to retrain you essentially and show you these skills. And like one of the simple things is like, we got to start building out a leadership team. We got to put people in place who are qualified and know how to report back to you to prove to you that the business is running smoothly. Right? You got to find the right people. You got to show them exactly what they need to do. We got to be able to hold them accountable to doing their job. I'm going to use an American football reference. I equate it from going from pee-wee football or like playground football where we're just running around like chickens with our head cut off. And 1 minute you're the quarterback and the next minute you're a wide receiver. And like everybody's just having fun, to being in the NFL where now there's structure and you have great players, right? And we have coaches and we have plays, right? And then we have the head office who's making the decisions and saying, hey, I need this person to do this, right? If this person scores 9 touchdowns this season, I'm going to give them $1 million signing bonus. And what's funny is that we always focus on the signing bonus that the player is getting, but nobody ever thinks about how much money do you think the organization is making when that person scores 9 touchdowns? They gave him $1 million. They probably made $100 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to get to as agency owners. We need to evolve our skills and become better at running the business. And that's essentially where my team comes in and does that, right? I say that a lot of the times we have to drag our agency owners kicking and screaming across the finish line. We are not the types of people that are going to tell you you're a special snowflake and that everything's rosy, right? Like we are that tough coach that's going to tell you like, hey, this is wrong. This is not right. You need to man up and let's get to work, right? And I'm going to be there every step of the way, but you can't keep doing things the way that you've been doing them if this is truly what you want. If you want to be able to sell your business for $5 million, $6 million, $10 million, I met a guy last week who sold his agency for $32 million, right? If that's the life that you want, these are the things that we need to do.
So your answer led to a question that was in my head, and I wasn't sure if I was going to ask it or not, but now I'm going to, Chris.
Ask it, dude. I'm an open book.
How much or what percentage or however you want to phrase the answer, but some of the work is skills-based, and I bet you a lot of the work is mindset-based. How much of this is mindset-based where you're just really having to beat on the client and go, look, get over this imposter syndrome. We've got something to build here.
I'm going to give you the truthful answer. It's 80% mindset. Yeah. It's 80%. It's when you decide that that's something that you're willing to invest in or that you're willing to reinvent yourself on, then we can get it done. But so many of us have programmed things in our brains, consciously, subconsciously, that prevents us from getting forward, right? The imposter syndrome that you just mentioned, right? Everybody has that.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that doesn't have that. Some of us have just figured out a system to get through that.
Well, you think of the freelancer that's building websites for, $500 a site to compete with someone's, nephew, right? And then that click in the brain that goes off that goes, wait, I can get $1,500 for this. Then I can get 5,000 for this. And then I could add a couple of features and sell this for 15 grand. And those are all mindset jumps. They're not really skills or technical knowledge jumps. They're small growth patterns with huge leaps of mental awareness.
Absolutely. Here's like a crazy like thought, whatever you think is the most that you could ever sell a website for, somebody looks at that and says, I would never do it for that cheap.
Yep.
They're out there. You're like, oh my God, if I could get $1 million for a website, that'd be amazing. There's somebody out there that's like, I would not even talk to somebody if their budget was only $1 million.
I remember when the Affordable Care Act came out, and they came out with that $93 million, marketplace site. And I told my wife, I said, we're done. We're done at this level. We got to go
what
up.
a nightmare. 93 million and it didn't work. Right. This is crazy.
Sorry. I was going to pass to Jonathan, but go ahead.
Pass away.
Jonathan, it's up to you.
Yeah, Chris, we have a lot of listeners and viewers of the show that I think are slightly lesser than the 1 million. I sense they're between the 200 to 500,000 range by the conversations. Have you got any insights, any actionable? I know it's a difficult question, but I'm all about specifics here. Have you got any advice about how somebody that's got what I call a micro agency?
Yeah, for sure.
That's in this 200 to 500,000, how they actively in a 1 year, maybe 2 year period get closer to that 1 million mark?
Yeah. So first of all, keep in mind, I came from nothing, like literally nothing. I had less than nothing in my bank account when I started my marketing agency.
Well, if you're a WordPress agency, that's something that regularly happens, Chris.
Yeah. So maybe the first step is stop calling yourself a WordPress agency. I'm going to drop some of my truth bombs on you guys. So first of all, if you are not building a marketing agency that you can sell one day, you are absolutely wasting your time. Okay. This business is so unbelievably difficult, and it changes all the time. One day you will wake up and not want to do this anymore. Or worst case scenario, like my dad, you could get pancreatic cancer and be dead in a month, right? These are realities. And so you need to be building your business from today so that it's an asset, so that it can be sold one day, right? Start with that end in mind. Hey, I want to be able to sell this. And whether that dream of yours is to sell it for $250,000 or $250 million, it does not matter. You need to have that end goal in mind. I will tell you something. In the United States, the government is going to take like 40% of whatever you sell it for, right? So just keep that in mind. Plus, you're going to sign a non-compete, and you won't be able to work in this business for anywhere from, on the low end, a year, but most likely it's going to be 3 to 5 years. So whatever you sell that business for, 60% of that is going to go in your pocket. 40% of that is going to go to the government. Also, if you pay a broker, right, that's going to be anywhere from 5 to 10% plus lawyer fees and all that stuff. You're also going to get an earnout too. So a lot of the times you're not going to get all that cash up front. So, and then after all of that is said and done, you're not going to be able to work in this industry that you've been working in, most of us, for like over a decade, for the next 3 to 5 years. The main source that you like of income for you is going to be gone for the next 3 to 5 years. And when you come back, it's probably going to be very, very different. So just take that into consideration, that the number that you need is typically going to be bigger than what you think it is, right? The next thing is niching, right? So I think all of us have heard the riches are in the niches, right? So find a niche and really focus on the problems that you're solving. One of the things that drives me crazy about our industry, and that really, really frustrates me, is that the number of scammers that have come in and legitimately ripped people off have driven the reputation of our business into the toilet.
I'm not trying to be funny, but there's an army of them in there.
The majority of them. And unfortunately, the clients, the small business owners, can't tell the difference. So they loop us all together and they say, well, I tried this kid and he, I paid him thousands of dollars and I didn't get anything. And that's why I can't trust you, Kurt, right? Because you're just like one of them. That's what the clients say.
You can trust Kirk. It's me that you.
Okay, Jonathan, we can't trust you. This is the challenge that we've faced.
I trust Kirk more than I trust myself, actually, Chris.
Perfect.
Our
Yeah. So this is the challenge that we face, and we can point the finger at everybody else, but to some extent we have to turn around and point the finger back at us because we didn't stand up to it. Enough is enough, guys. Like, if you guys are with me, we need to repair the reputation of our industry and start focusing on client results. So if you're out there listening right now, you need to take a stand with us and say, we're going to put the customer first and make sure that we get that client results. Don't sell stuff that you can't actually deliver on. It's unethical, right?
Yeah,
Any other industry, it doesn't fly.
Yeah,
right?
I do agree with you, but the only thing I would say to you is this doesn't apply. It's not 100% scenario, but there is a lot of clients that just want you to tell them what they want to hear. I resist it. I'm still resisting it. I was consulting with a possible client yesterday, and it was really very evident that she was very resistant to the honest advice. She had some preset aspirations and views that were really unrealistic to her skill level, which I surmised from our discussion. But she was very resistant because she had this vision, and it's great to have a vision. It's what keeps us going. But if we haven't got the practical skills to get to that vision, it's a little bit of hot air, isn't it?
Yeah, I would turn them away. That's what I would do. I think that's what we have to do, right? And trust me, I've been in a position where it's like, do I take on this project where I don't feel like it's going to work, but I also need to keep the lights on? And I've had to make the hard decision, right? There are good people that are out there. And in the end, when it doesn't work out, do you think they're going to say, oh, it was my fault? Of course not. They're going to blame you.
Yeah.
They're going to blame Jonathan.
Yeah.
That's what happens every single time, right? So we have to have the courage to be able to say no. And I think from marketing ourselves, right, we got to get better at explaining what's the benefit of what we do and also who we work with and who we don't.
So to recap, before I throw it over to Kurt, or we might go for our half break, actually. We'll probably go for our half break. But to recap, I think what you're saying is there's two things from this end question is, really find a niche. Try stopping being a generalist. Really concentrate on end result and be in a position where you can turn away some clients that really aren't a good fit because it will have consequences. Is that a good synopsis?
Yeah, I would say, well, the first one that I mentioned was having the end goal in mind of selling the business, right? And recognize that you're going to sell a business or you're building a business that can sell. The second one is picking the niche. The third one is really kind of comes down to just having a great product that gets client results. We focus on that, we'll be fine. Everything else will be easy.
All right. I think it's time for us to go for our mid-break. We've had a great discussion with Chris. I think we've covered some great stuff. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
We're coming back, folks. We've had a feast about all the problems of agency ownership and the opportunities. Should be a great second half discussion. Before we go into it, I want to point out, if you're looking for a great WordPress host and much more partner, a true partner for your projects, why don't you look at what WP-Tonic has to offer for the freelancer and the agency owner? We've got some great packages. We got tons of experience of being a specialized boutique hosting provider. You can find more information by going over to wp-tonic.com/partners, wp-tonic.com/partners. Let's build something special together. So back over to you, Kurt.
Well, we kind of go into this this topic on a lot of our shows Chris, and I think it's important thinking about agencies and the use of AI and opportunities. And I think some of us are coming at it and saying AI is going to take all of our jobs, or AI is going to steal our opportunities, and other people are saying AI is a birth of opportunity because now we can become the experts in this tool and propagate, fame and fortune. What do you think are some of the most significant opportunities in an agency with AI from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying that anything is going to take your job or AI is going to take your job, you're a fool, because it wasn't your job to begin with, right? We earn our place, at least in a capitalistic society, which I am a huge advocate of. We earn our place, right? You earn your spot on the team. So nobody's taking your job. This technology that's coming around, though, is a massive opportunity for us. And it's one of the things that we'll be talking about at my event in San Diego in December, is how we can leverage AI to be more efficient. So like me being kind of like an operations, systems and processes type of brain, like I love efficiency. Like I'm obsessed with efficiency. I want to figure out how can we get this thing done faster, but without compromising on the quality and without increasing cost. Right. And so like these tools that are now really coming of age are going to change the game. One thing specifically, and we'll absolutely be talking about this at my event, AI cold calling. We're using it right now with phenomenal success. You guys, it's going to become so good that you won't be able to tell the difference that it's a person or an AI. I'm telling you.
I have that effect I have that effect on customers already, Chris.
Exactly. We're going to have clones of Jonathan just running around.
That would be a real nightmare, Chris. That's something I would not want on society at all.
It's a Star Wars show coming. Come on. Revenge of the Jonathans. So what I was going to say is this technology here, it's a massive opportunity, especially for those that jump in early. This AI cold calling that we're doing right now, that I'm using for myself and that my clients are using, this will become the standard within the next year. I promise you that, right? The technology is just going to get better. And it's not just for us.
Chris, how can you live with your conscience, Chris?
Why is that?
Yeah, AI cold calling, Chris. It probably is really effective. You've just made my blood cold.
So listen, let's talk about this.
It's my English humour, Chris.
I know, I like it.
I don't get offended. Kirk's got used to it.
Yeah, so let's look at it this way. Actually, here's a very practical application, right? So like when we do lead generation for a client, we're booking appointments for them. What's the biggest mistake that those clients make? If I book an appointment for them, what's the biggest mistake that they make?
I've just gone blank, actually, Chris.
They don't call the prospect back. They don't call them back fast enough. The speed to calling them back, they take too long, right? All the data shows you got to call them back within 30 seconds or something like that, right? They're not calling them. And then they say these leads suck. And they point the finger back at you, and you suck, and you're a scammer just like the rest of them, and then they cancel, right? That's what happens. So, and I get it, right? Especially if it's a smaller business and maybe they don't have a dedicated sales team that can be on the phone calling people like immediately as soon as they fill out the form or whatever. But now we can use this, like right now, we can use this technology. Form fill comes in, right? The call goes out immediately to that prospect and says, hey, Jonathan, thanks so much for filling out the form. How are you doing today? And you have no idea that's an AI. You're like, everything's going well. You'll probably figure it out after a couple of sentences, but then there'll be instances where you're like, now I'm not sure that this is a robot, right? And what happens is that the call gets booked and our lead conversion goes up and our cost per lead goes down, right? This is very beneficial for that small business owner, right? So now you don't have to have a $10,000 a month sales team to be able to book these calls, right? Think about how that's empowering the little guy. Like I'm very much about empowering the little guy because I'm the little guy, I'm not supposed to be here, right? So these tools to me, this is our ability to fight against the evil empire, right? Gives us the upper hand if we're brave enough to adopt the new technology.
you dealt with my English humour really well, and you're still making my blood go cold, though, Chris. But bless you.
That's what I'm here for. It's my California
bless your little
optimism.
Heart, let's talk about offshoring, because especially in the WordPress freelance agency, there's a contradictory feeling. There's a lot of people domestic that really resent offshore agencies. WP-Tonic.
Totally okay.
WP-Tonic is a hybrid. I have some people offshore, and I have some people. Most of them are subcontractors. I haven't got anybody that actually works for me full time. They're all subcontractors. I've chosen that route. But there's a mixed feeling. But I've had a hybrid for the past 8 years, and there's a definite skill to it. I have another podcast where I have another partner who runs a larger agency than me, and he has a very reasonably large team. I think it's between 15 to 20 people in the Philippines. And it's taken him years to build that team. I think there's definitely a skill base in managing and growing an agency with offshore teams. What are some of so I think you're a great person to get some more insight about this, because you've got a ton of experience. What do you think agency owners, I've got some thoughts about this, but what are some of the biggest misconceptions that agency owners have around offshore staff and the management of them, Chris, based on your extensive experience?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I've hired people all across the world, hundreds and hundreds of people in Latin America specifically. We just found that was the best for us because of the time zone. Right. So I think the biggest misconception kind of came from this stupid term called virtual assistant, where somebody created this term called virtual assistant. They made it seem like it was this magical human being that can just do anything. Right. You need them to do copy and design and make the coffee and
I think that comes from a certain guy that wrote the 4-hour week or so. Wasn't that one of his?
What does that guy even do? I've never met him before. I would love to have a conversation with him. But yes, it was this term that was just created, and then people foolishly assign that, and she's like, I'm going to send that to my VA, and it doesn't really work like that, right? So just like in the United States, right, you have people that are good at certain things, and you hire them for a specific role, and they're not good at other things, and you wouldn't hire them for that other role. So you do need to make sure first that what you need done aligns with that person's skill sets. It seems pretty basic, but I have to say that first. So once you've found somebody that has the right technical ability, right, if they're going to build websites, get a web developer. If they're a designer, have a designer, right? If they're an ads person, make sure they have experience with ads, Google ads, Meta ads, whatever it is. Make sure that they have the experience, okay? You give tests for that. The second thing, and this is the most important thing, is the soft skills, right? Are they a good culture fit for your company? One of the things that I will say, and this will piss somebody off, there are certain cultures around the world that does not value being on time. Okay? It's just not important to them. They don't grow up learning that. For me, I'm a stickler for being on time. You better be on time. And you better hit deadlines, because I know that my clients, at least here in the United States, they're waiting on us to hit a deadline. They can ignore you all week long. But if you say, hey, this is going to be ready at 3:00 on Friday, guess what? 2:54, they're refreshing their inbox, waiting for that thing to come through, right? So for us to hit deadlines, guess what? We got to have other people that hit deadlines. And so when you're hiring overseas, you absolutely need to check for those soft skills. I don't want to say more so than in the US, but the standard is the same. I hold everybody to the same exact standard, regardless of where they live. we're in an age where we have access to everybody. Like I can show you how to go out and hire people anywhere in the whole entire world. It's very, very easy, right? We have to find the right people. And I think that most marketing agencies, I get it. You're overworked. You're tired. You don't have time to sort through 100 resumes to find one good person. It's just the way that it is, though, because what's the consequence, right? I use this example of Google's hiring process. I don't know if you know anybody who's worked for Google before, or their hiring process. This is at least 2 months long.
I've got a couple of people. I know.
Yeah. Okay. It's 2 months long. They have like 160,000 employees globally, right? Their hiring process is so stringent, and they have 160,000 employees. If they hire one bad person, it's not going to make or break them, right? But then Mr. or Miss agency owner who's got 10 employees, they're like, resume looks good. Interview, they seem somebody cool, like that I would want to have a beer with. Let's give them a shot, right? That person can kill your business. Small business owners should be more diligent about their hiring than the bigger guys, but we're not, right? And that's a problem, right? Hiring overseas can be massively helpful. It can be like help you save so much money. You can still find amazing people. I personally believe that there's amazing people all across the globe, right? And now with our technology and just how easy it is to connect, we can find people that have the skill sets that fit within our budget. It's amazing, right? But if you screw it up, it can be absolutely detrimental. It can put you out of business, right? So you do have to take it seriously.
You got any insights about, the hiring process then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you my 7-step hiring process is pretty quick. So first part of the hiring process is the actual resume, right? So actually I should say the job post. So in the job post, I always put in a little test, send me your resume as a PDF, include a cover letter and put it in a Word document. Put this as the subject of the email, right? Simple test, just checking attention to detail. Keep in mind that the best that anybody is ever going to perform in a job is in the interview process. It's the best you're ever going to get them. So if they screw that up, guess what? If you hire them, it's going to be 10 times worse. So your hiring process is designed to exclude people, right? We're not trying to prove that little Johnny is amazing and he needs to work with me. No, it's Johnny's proving that he's good enough to be on our team, right? It's very cutthroat. Then after that, they send in their resume. If we like them, we'll send them a questionnaire. They got to respond. For me, it's within 48 hours. Now, when I graduated from college and I had 0 job opportunities, guess what? I was looking for a job right away because I had to put food in my mouth, right? And side note, I went through every Fortune 500 company and I applied to every single job that I could find, right? That's what it took. And if they emailed me and said, hey, we're interested, I emailed back immediately. I ended up getting hired from number like 267, right? And so if somebody doesn't reply to my questionnaire asking them for information about their work experience and show me some examples of your work, they don't reply within 48 hours to me, they're gone. It means they don't want a job, right? I want people who are ambitious, who want to be here, right? If they pass that, we take them to a phone interview, just quick 15 minutes. We want to get a sense for how they speak. Do they show up on time? Very much looking at the soft skills. Then it goes to, usually we have 2 technical tests. We use a service called Test Dome. I highly recommend that you check it out. I do not own that company. They're just a good product. Testdome.com, you can create a standardized test, evaluate pretty much anything. They pass that, then we move them on to an actual test where, like, let's just say it's a web developer. We'll give them a website that they need to build. I do not pay for those tests, by the way, or I do not pay them for their time when building out that sample project. It's not a live project, right? They pass that, then we'll send them a personality test. We use a psychometric exam, make sure that their skill sets align with what we're looking for in the person. They pass that, it goes to the final round of interviews, and usually it's 3 to 4 people. Each person has a standard list of questions that they're asking. One of the most important things that you need to do is a core values test. And so you ask them, like, let's just say one of your core values is going the extra mile for your clients. You have to ask them a specific question and say, hey, Kurt, when's the last time in a work setting? Tell me about the last time in a work setting where you went the extra mile for a client, right? And you want to hear what they have to say. If they're bullshitting you, they will make it up, or it'll be very, very vague. But if they're telling the truth, they will give you a specific answer, right? That's what we're looking for. Most of the time, they will pass that final round of interviews. But if anybody on the team that's doing the interview says, hey, there's something not right, we'll discuss it, and then we'll exclude that person. That whole funnel takes about 2 weeks. It works very, very well.
Yeah, I'd imagine it does actually. But these are people that you're employing directly. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can hire them as independent contractors. Yeah,
Well,
that's
I've
typically who I only like to hire. Yeah.
I've adapted some of your methodologies. I used to be a little. I've got to be true. Especially, well, I found people that have been recommended to me. I took on a couple. The graphic designer worked for me for 6 years. She was based in Indonesia. She was fabulous. And the developer still works for me. But I took on another agency. These people had been working for her for about 5 years. And she just one day decided she didn't want to run an agency. And she gave them no notice. And she said, well, can you take over them? And I did, and they were excellent. I give her due. She was merciless. I tend to make excuses for people, Chris.
Yeah, that's normal. You're a nice guy.
Oh, am I? Thank you.
That's sweet. That sweetheart face.
Yeah, thank you. That kind of stuff won't get anywhere with me. It's just that, I've stopped making excuses. I give them so much slack, and then I just get rid of them. Because I've lost all patience with excuses. Because I think it's a bit like what you said, your clients have no time for your excuses, do they?
Yeah, exactly. We've got results to get for the clients. We owe it to them. Yeah.
But I've adopted some of your, because I think you're totally spot on. I've noticed with, if they're being recommended to you from other people, it's normally better. But if you're just going on a general freelancer platform, it's a bit like if you're going on dating. I would say 80% of the people on these platforms are junk. There's some really great people, but and most of them won't follow any instructions, and they have got nothing really to show you. And they're totally vague about what they did anyway. So I think you're spot on, Chris. I'll give you that. You are spot on. Back over to you, Kurt.
Well, I kind of want to drive it back to close the AI kind of questions, because we talked about, does AI take your job or not take your job? But Chris, in the grand scheme of your business, and I'm not thinking of you as like agency now, I'm thinking of as like a guy that helps other agencies, right? That's the way I'm picturing this.
I still own a couple agencies. Actually, I just recently took equity in a few agencies. We're taking more equity, so it's more fun for me to be able to have that my hands really deep in the business.
Well, where do you sit with your AI toolbox? What are some of the prime tools that help you get through your day?
Well, some of them I'm not going to talk about because we're still keeping those in the secret toolbox. So it's this. I'm sorry, guys. This is just part of the time period.
I did like you, Chris, but now I'm going off you.
That's fine. I'll live.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
There's certain things that it's so early that it gives us a massive competitive advantage. But the one that I like the most is still ChatGPT. Most people don't tap into how much ChatGPT can do for you. Now, the thing that I don't like is that we're pushing all of our answers back into the universe with ChatGPT. So we're looking at some tools right now so that I can truly clone myself, and it's not going to go out into the universe.
What could go wrong, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know that all of my thoughts need to be pushed into the universe, because I don't know if that's going to benefit humanity at all.
Oh, I'm pretty sure none of my thoughts would benefit community.
Exactly. But honestly, ChatGPT, like the way that you look at AI, in my opinion, because I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I love C-3PO. I love the idea of having my own C-3PO, right? And if you guys, I don't know if you guys watch Star Wars or not, but right. C-3PO and R2-D2, they could run all the computations in the computer to make sure that we don't hit a star, right, as we're flying through space. There's some of these little tasks that we can use. So like a perfect example, meetings. So I love Read. That's the one that I use to record all of my meetings, right? So after we do a client meeting, we will take that transcription out of read. And these tools, they have like a meeting summary, but they're kind of crappy. We'll take the transcription out of read. We pop it into ChatGPT, and I have some specific prompts. I say, this is a meeting that I did with Jimmy from whatever agency. I want you to go through and give me a meeting summary outlining everything that happened in the meeting. And I want you to outline the specific to-dos that Jimmy agreed to do and that I agreed to do, including the deadlines, right? I upload that in. It creates this meeting summary. I take that and I pop it into my Freshdesk. And we're working on an integration straight into Freshdesk right now, right? Freshdesk is our ticketing software. Now there's a record of that meeting, right? I still have the transcription and the video if I need to go back. But that gets popped into Freshdesk, and now we can create to-dos and deadlines and all this stuff, and it happens within minutes, right? Before, I would personally have to remember what we talked about. First of all, I would take notes on my notepad. I would take notes. I would write down all the things that I had to do. Then I have to sit down on the computer, and I have to remember, what did Jimmy say, right? And then I type it up, and then I go, I think I said this. Wait, did I say that? Let me go back to the recording, right? It would take like 30 minutes, and now I can get that done in like 5 minutes or less. Right. So when we look at efficiency, did the quality of that process improve? Well, absolutely. Now it's way better. Right. What about the speed? Well, now I can do it in 1/6 of the time. Right. My quality of life goes up. The experience for the client also improves. Our value that we bring to the client improves. My capacity to handle more clients also improves as well. So that's just one simple thing that we learned. If you're not doing that, I'm guessing that most of you are having meetings with your clients. It's the simplest thing that you could do right now. Record the calls, upload the transcription, use that prompt that I gave you, create the meeting summaries, put it into your project management system or your ticketing system. You will absolutely improve the experience for your clients and you'll make more money. Mic drop.
Yeah, I'm seeing all the parallels in the different markets that I tend to dance around in. Like Chris, for instance, I work with automotive, motorcycle, and marine dealerships in a lot of different levels. And so when you were talking about the cold calling in response to a trigger, I immediately thought of business development centers, what they call the BDC in that industry, right? And you click on any car ad, immediately your email goes, your text goes, your phone rings. Come on down to the dealership, take a look at it now, blah, blah. And this thing's setting you up for an appointment to meet a salesman, but it's probably not a real person, right?
Yeah.
So it's doing its thing. So I'm like, okay, I definitely see where that works. I was looking to possibly sell a Volkswagen GTI a couple of years ago, and man, they hunted me down like I was a wild animal in the woods. Man, they wanted that car. During the pandemic, everybody was after me, and every tool you could think of was working. And as an agency owner, I wasn't evading the calls because it was an annoyance. I was trying to reverse engineer what the heck was going on.
Right.
And is it useful to me? Right. So I was thinking of that use case. When you were talking about other things just now with ChatGPT, I thought about the work I do in the marine industry. They have their own AI with the Marine Retailers Association they call Amy. And it doesn't go out to the whole internet. It only researches or gives you answers based on a like restricted bandwidth of marine information. Right. And it's like, okay, so that's that use case. And I again try to reverse engineer that thought. Right. So if the riches are in the niches and I niche that down and I craft an AI tool in a certain realm, then we're in that market. And so I think the conversation we're having today has really opened up a couple of extra doors in the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to say it's the Wild West because there's kind of like a negative association with that, but the opportunities are massive, right? Like, and I'm not really I don't get excited about tech very easily because to me, most of it is smoke and mirrors or BS or hype.
Yeah.
But this is legitimately going to change the way that we function as human beings, right? And so we should just get on board with this.
I'll give you a tip back, actually, Chris. I was using Freshdesk and it's great, but it was getting really quite expensive. And then I moved to Fluent Support. It's a WordPress plugin.
Nice.
And we got it on a subdomain with its own server. And it saved me a ton of money. And it does exactly what Fluent Freshdesk does. So that's Fluent Support. Have a look at it because I think it saved you a ton of money, Chris.
I love saving money.
Yeah, you got to keep. Let's go to the final question.
Sure.
And if you're up to it, we might have some bonus content. But if you need to disappear at the hour, I totally understand.
Let me
Chris.
see. I think I left a good buffer for you guys.
So I like Kirk has to go before the hour because he's got something else he's got to do. But my final official question is, like, I'm from England. I'm into Doctor Who and the TARDIS, the Time Machine. I'm into my H.G. Wells, the Time Machine as well. So if you had your own time machine and you could go back to the beginning of your career, is there one or two little tips that you would like to give yourself?
To my career, that's a tough one.
Or anything, Chris.
Oh, anything. I mean, I talk to my dad before he dies. That's for sure. Because he died so soon.
Yeah.
Within a month, he was dead and gone. And I was, he died 3 days before I turned 27. So when you're a man, or a young man that age, you're just starting to come, into your own. I was kind of excelling in my career, and I was starting to connect with my dad on a different level. And then he was gone. So this year, this January 10th, it'll be 18 years. So that's what I would absolutely go back and do that over again. I would tell me as a kid to not be so stupid, and that everything's going to be everything that everything's going to be okay, right? Yeah. Professionally, I would say don't start that soccer magazine. You're an idiot. But at the same time, all these failures that I've had, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today had I not had that.
Yeah, well, that's
negative
point,
experience.
That's the
point. And this is one of the things that I learned when I had that failure of a soccer magazine, is you really do get to see who your friends are, right? Because this is the time period. It's like 2009, basically. I lost all my money, right? I had less than $40 in the bank. I had nobody to turn to. I was a miserable piece of shit to be around because I was just so angry all the time. All right. I don't hope I'm allowed to curse on this show. I was just miserable to be around.
I've been pretty clean for about 6 months, but I have these.
Okay.
Kirk will say I just have these shows where I curse like a sailor.
Well, that's okay. I don't know what
triggers it actually, Chris. But I don't normally curse, and then I have these episodes, don't I, Kirk?
At times.
Yeah, that's okay. So I was miserable at that time, right? Nobody wanted to be around me. And then I had these people that were supposed to be my friends. I thought that they were my friends. And, I don't blame them for leaving because I was very, very difficult to be around. And that's on me, right? But it is surprising to see who's going to be there in your darkest times and who's not. And it surprises you, right? And I'm thankful for that because I got to realize at age 29 what really matters, right? All those things that people say about you, all the fancy stuff and being in the limelight or the cool kids and whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
So we're going to have some bonus content, folks. You'll be able to watch the podcast plus the bonus content on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. But we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. So, Chris, what's the best way for people to find out about you? And maybe you want to quickly give some info about this conference you mentioned that you are holding in December.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website, bloompartners.io. That's our website. Our podcast is up there. We always have at least 3 articles that go up every single day. You can jump on our newsletter. But the biggest way, if you are looking at your 2024 and you're saying one of two things, this did not go the way that I had planned, or this went amazingly well, and I'm a little bit scared for how I'm going to deal with that in 2025, come to our event. It's called Agency Freedom Live. It's December 5th through the 7th, so about 3 weeks away. And we're going to map out exactly how you're going to go from maybe not having the best year in 2024 to making it the best year of your life. We're going to talk about strategic planning. We're going to go through budgeting. We're going to go through team. We've got speakers that are coming in. My friend Corey's come in and he worked at Scorpion. He's going to talk about how he took them from 10 million to 120 million in revenue, teach you about how to build out your sales team. We're going to be talking about AI. We're talking about hiring and training and scaling your people. My friend Ralph Burns, who runs an agency called Tier 11. He's going to be talking about how he's built his own team and his own multi-million-dollar agency. So it's going to be an amazing event. You can go to agencyfreedomlive.com and grab one of those final tickets that we have. I'd love to see you and meet you face to face. Of course, we're going to have a lot of fun too.
You'll find all the links to everything Chris says in the show notes that will be up at the beginning of next week on the WP-Tonic website, folks. Kirk, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and your ideas and what you're up to?
Yeah, when it comes to business, Mañana No Mas is the website, mañananomas.com. And if you want to, connect personally, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I say it all the time. I'm the only Kurt Von Onen on LinkedIn. So when you find me, you know you got the right guy.
Like I say, we're going to continue the discussion. I'm going to be asking Chris about how you get your agency ready for sale and a couple other things. And you'll be able to see all the interview plus the bonus content, like I say, on the WP-Tonic website. We will be back next week, probably for our final show. No, actually, I'm getting confused. We have got some more shows coming up, but we are going to have a break in December. We will be back soon. See you soon, folks. Bye.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
So, Chris, let's go on to the bonus content. So,
Sure.
got any insights based on your extensive experience about somebody is thinking, I think, like you said at the beginning of the podcast part of the conversation, they've got to be having a plan of action about one day they want to sell this business. But I think a lot of people, they start thinking about it a year, 18 months. I have sold, not in this space, I'm a dyslexic and I got into retailing, dry cleaning in the UK. Mm-hmm. And I did my computer science degree as a mature student in my late 20s, part-time. Mm-hmm. But I built up a pretty successful dry cleaning business. And then I married an American lady and she wanted to come back to California and I was burnt out. So I was quite up for it. And I attempted to sell this business. It was the most painful experience, only building up a business, but actually selling a business is excruciating because the amount of time wasters and it took 3 attempts to actually get the person that really bought it in the end, and it took a lot longer and it was more painful. Is that similar to the experiences people get when they're selling a digital agency?
I think one of the things that probably hurts the most is when somebody's not willing to give you what you think it's worth, right? When they're just going to look at the numbers. I'm just telling you flat out right now, the only thing that they care about is the numbers. They don't care about your click-through rates or your cost per lead or your amazing design process that you have. They do not care. All they care about is the numbers. And unfortunately, many of us agency owners, we don't really like the numbers, right? Like, I've learned to love the numbers. I think that the numbers are the truth. But it's important to start now, right? So like, they're absolutely, a buyer is definitely going to look at your financials and they're going to look 3 years in the rears, right? So they're going to look at your past trailing 36 months. And they're going to look at what's been happening, right? Because they want to see, is this a sound investment? It's not like they're bad people. It's just like, if we're going to give you a lot of money, I want to make sure that this is a safe investment. Now, what's really interesting right now is that there's a lot of people, this is kind of like the next get rich quick scheme, is that they're saying like, instead of starting a business, go out and buy a business, right? There's these gurus that are talking about how all these baby boomers are retiring, and so all these businesses are for sale, and you can be a millionaire overnight just buying another business. While there is some truth to the opportunity, it's not easy to run a business, and it's definitely not easy to run a marketing agency. You do have to know something about the business, right? And so with that being said, whoever's going to buy you is going to look at your numbers. And so we advise you to start planning for that at least 2 years in advance, ideally sooner. But the thing is like the best time to sell a business is when you don't need to sell it. So build the business that you never need to sell, because when that day comes, they're going to give you a lot of money for it. I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it.
You know, you were talking about this between $1 million to 10 million. What is the multiple at the present moment? Is it, you know, I've seen it as low as 2 to 1, which I think is ridiculous, but I've seen some ridiculous multiples. I think traditionally 3 to 1, maybe 4 to 1 multiple.
Yeah. So we're talking about EBITDA, right? Not revenue, right? So nobody's going to give you a multiple on your revenue. That just, I mean, it's you need to have healthy revenue, but it really comes down to your EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and so it's a little funky right now. And this gentleman that I was speaking with last week, who sold for 32 million, the magic number used to be $1 million in EBITDA, right? And you would be able to get a 5, 7, maybe an 8x multiple on your EBITDA. And anything below that was anywhere between 3 to 4. It's a little bit tricky, and also it depends on who you're selling to. So if you sell to a strategic buyer, I have a friend that sold to a CRM. He was in a niche. I can't give away exactly who it is, but he was in a construction niche, and a CRM came in and said, "Hey, we don't have a marketing agency arm. I want to buy you." They gave him a very, very good multiple, like over 10x. And then, so he kind of got lucky. His EBITDA was at $1 million, but it was a strategic buyer, so they gave him a bit more, right? Now, if you have 2 million in EBITDA, then you can seriously get 6, 7, or 8x, right? So it's the goalpost has moved a little bit, unfortunately. 2 million is now the new 1 million. That being said, there's always exceptions to the rule. If you're under 1 million in EBITDA or 2 million in EBITDA, whatever number you want to use, you're typically seeing around 3x right now. You would be lucky to get 4. It's just cash isn't flowing as much.
I think you're totally spot on there. I was listening to, I don't agree with everything this guy says, but I don't agree with everything I say. And it's normally when I get a bit hecked up.
I was going to say, get the sauce a little bit.
Yeah. It's Professor G of he has a great podcast, Proper G, Galloway, Professor Galloway, and he sold, but he had a load of Fortune 500 companies, and it's like up to 100 million, and he sold it to another multi-international company, and he said they got a multiple of 10. And I thought, I don't know if he's spinning it a bit, or I sense that he wasn't, but that's so rare in the service business, isn't it, to get a 10, isn't it? Blimey.
Yeah.
But he sold it at the height of the market before it kind of, the cash got a bit more expensive to borrow,
Right. Yeah, I was at a conference just last week in Las Vegas, and it was all about buying and selling businesses. And there was a business broker there, and he actually gave out a valuation calculator that he uses. And so his valuation calculator, it's in real time. So they'll pull deals from the past 2 years, or I can't remember if it was 2 years or 1 year. So they'll pull all the actual data from all the deals that have been sold in your industry, so that when they go to sell your business or you go to buy a business, you can see if it's a fair market valuation. And so I got his calculator, and so now we can see, like what the valuations were up to. I don't know what was last week, November 7th, of all the previous deals. And yeah, I mean, for us, they're falling within those ranges.
Because I think you were spot on what you said. Is I think that with this business I've just mentioned, they had really great figures, but the business that bought it really wanted it. They really, because they wanted the book of business.
Yep.
And funny enough, I just lost a client that had been with me 8 years. It was a company that was in the marketing space, but we were doing all their WordPress work, and the founder built it up to a 200-person business. It was around where you live. And he sold it to a very large multi-international company, and you always get a bit twitchy when it happens. But it continued for another 2 years. Obviously, he got a ton of money. He never told me what he got, but good luck to him. But he probably signed a 2-year agreement with him. And when it got right to the month, they parted company with him, and they had just signed a year's contract with me, renewed it, and they tried to get out of it, Chris.
Oh yeah,
they tried to squeeze me, but I managed to get them to honour it, and they really, really do want to honour it. They wanted to get rid of me as quick, and I'm peanuts. This is a Fortune 500 company, and it was like I was literally doing kind of brutal dental work on them. I got that feeling they would just love to get out of this, but they signed and they tried to weasel out of it, but I must have given the feeling it wasn't worth the effort. I don't know why they backed down, really, because they had an army of lawyers. They just screwed me, but in the end they chose to honour the contract, but they tried to get out of it, though.
Yeah, good for you for standing your ground, right?
Yeah, but I'm not saying I don't think it was any special. It caused me a few late nights, but I found a few customers to replace them. But it's funny, isn't it? So just how this fits into what we've been talking about are you valued more if you've got like 2 to 3 kind of Fortune 500 customers, or are you valued more if you just got a load of smaller clients? Or is it best to have a mixture?
There's this term called key client risk. I don't know if you've ever heard of this term before.
No, I haven't heard that one.
So key client risk basically means that if this one client leaves, is it going to be detrimental to the business? And so this is me personally, right? I like to have smaller clients, let's just say in the $2,000 to $3,000 a month range, in a niche that are very easy to service, and we just have a lot more of those, right? That's personally what I think is easier, because you'll never run into that issue with the key client risk problem. When a buyer is looking at you, of course, they're going to be like, well, what happens if the big giant contract leaves and we lose? I had another client, actually, they had a $60,000 a month retainer walk out the door 3 months ago, right? Now, luckily, we helped them to replace that person, and so now they're back whole. But man, if you lose a $60,000 a month retainer, you're going to have some sleepless nights, right? That's not a fun position to be in. So I personally don't think that having those big, massive whale clients are great unless all your clients are massive whales, right? Like if you have 15 massive, let's say $50,000, $100,000 a month retainers, okay, cool. Like it's going to hurt when one leaves. It's going to hurt when 2 leaves. But really, you don't want any one client to be more than 20% of your total revenue.
Yeah, so I had another friend, because when I sold my dry cleaning business, I was doing some freelance work after my degree, and then I decided a year later I decided to do an MA in graphic design. I did that at the London School of Print and Design. It no longer exists. It was an old print trade college. And then I was doing some freelancing, funny enough, in Flash. Aging me, isn't it?
I was going to say, I haven't heard that term in a long time.
Yeah. And then I moved to the UK, and I took a year off, and then I got a job with a regional in Northern Nevada, one of the largest digital agency, as their WordPress person. They're starting it. They were using Expression Engine and Drupal. Oh God, Drupal.
Keep dropping all these terms that I haven't heard in a long time. I'm getting flashback to 2014.
Expression Engine. I did like Drupal, but then I was the WordPress person, but they were 100-person agency, and I've never seen such dysfunctionality in all my life. So I managed to keep there for 3 years, but luckily, and I didn't actually need the money. I had a fair ton of money. Unfortunately, that went to my divorce. But those years working for this large agency, and they're still going, and I don't know he would take a call from me, but I don't think he's got much love for me because I was a little bit bolshy, and he was a maniac, and his wife, she was pretty maniacish as well. But fun times actually. But it's just the madness of a digital agency, isn't it? That's why they burn out in the end, don't they?
Well, I wanted to mention this on the actual interview, but there's a term, right? Because I know these guys that played soccer here in the U.S., and there was a term that we had here that one day you wake up and you don't want to wear shorts to work anymore, right? All the professional footballers would say that, and it's kind of the same thing with marketing agencies. One day you wake up and you just don't want to do this anymore, right? It just wears on you. It's so freaking difficult, you know. That's why I think it's so important that you have an exit plan from the beginning.
Yeah, but it was because Northern Nevada, and I think a lot of regional agencies that are reliant on their social political contacts in their region, because they had a lot of because of Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Mountains, they had a lot of tourists, and they were doing a lot of overflow work for agencies in San Francisco because they could hire developers cheaper in Reno, in Northern Nevada. But they had these tourists, but they also had an enormous amount of well-financed, non-profit kind of quasi-government private enterprise work that normally non-profit is not that attractive because normally they don't have any budgets, but there are a number of these kind of quasi-state private enterprise that are extremely well-funded, and they got their claws into those big ways. But they had to do a lot of brown nose sniffing, as I call it. Exactly. Wine and dine these local politicians all the time.
That's not the type of business that I want to be involved in. I don't want to be in somebody's pocket like that. To each their own. But I will tell you that I have a friend who ran an agency for years in Riverside County down here in California, and they had a lot of government work. Right, it was mainly government project work. And they were going after they were doing a couple $1 million a year, right? They were living fat and happy and sloppy. And they had a government contract that came through, and it said that if you want to be able to get this contract, you have to have a certain number of employees. So they staff up thinking, the government agency or whatever is like, yeah, you guys are going to get it. Of course, just hire these people. They don't get it. They've got all these people on the payroll. They don't get the contract. There's another one that comes up. Oh yeah, you'll get this one. They don't get that one. And they try and keep it working, right? Because agency owners, we're nice people. Like, we want to keep these people employed. Drains the bank account. They go out of business, right? Now, luckily, I'm helping them to buy another agency so they can start again. But yeah, I don't like relying on those types of projects. I'm big on monthly recurring revenue as well.
In Northern Nevada, there's about 3 major agencies, and they all hate one another with a passion, and they're all competing they have their outside of state book of business, but they're also all kind of competing for these high worth quasi-state private enterprise jobs, and that's why they hate one another with such a passion. But I'm out of it because we just specialise in membership, community. I get my clientele from all over the place. Plus, I've got some clients, bigger clients. So I'm trying to diversify. I think we've had a great off podcast chat. I think we covered a ton of stuff in this interview, haven't we?
I've always been an
I've
open
in a
book.
couple of times my English humour. I think I lost you, but I think you got used to it now. It's rather dark humour, isn't it?
So when I was living in Los Angeles, I used to live in Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach area, if you know where that is. And there was a pub there that we would always go watch all the games. And it used to be owned by George Best. It was called Besties back in the day. And it's called the Underground. It's called the Underground now.
He died a sad death. He had a great time dying. He drunk himself to death.
And that's the sad part, is that he obviously ended his career too soon, and then he bought this bar in Hermosa Beach, California.
Last thing an alcoholic should buy, really.
Drank himself to death, and I met people that knew him, and they would hang out with him at the bar, and it's like he's always a fun person to hang around, but at the same time, you're like, what are you doing here? Why is this the path that you've gone down? And so the rumor was, the night that George Best died, there was a picture of him over the bar and in Hermosa Beach, and he had moved away, right? And so the night that he died, the picture of him fell off the wall, and that was his farewell, apparently.
I saw him play as a kid at West Ham. He was getting on. It was the last couple of seasons before he moved to America. But you could still see some of the magic. He was the most dynamic magic players.
Right.
If you watch any of, he just destroyed opposition teams. He just tore them to bits.
Kind of like a Lionel Messi.
Pardon?
Kind of like a Lionel Messi.
Yeah, there's only like half a dozen, like Pele, Messi, those type of players that have that ability to destroy whole teams in front of you.
Yeah,
but,
and you can do nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. You're like, this is just going to happen.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the chat.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming on, Chris. We're going to end it now. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.